Eaglesville, Tennessee. Hello.
Sorry, this is recording.
So y'all are not being recorded on video. We're just recording the session so that we've got a record of the great interaction we're going to get with all of you.
I jumped out of my skin. Oh my goodness. Oh, see, now I'm gonna have to start all over because she scared me so bad.
I'm sorry. Not again.
He is building 2 farms, Healthy Flavors in Eagleville, Tennessee, and Healthy Flavors AR in Conway, Arkansas. He advocates for farm-led, locally focused, community-infused, and sustainable-based agriculture. He believes there will be more changes in farming in the next 30 years than there was in the last 100. He is searching for different ways to accelerate positive changes and incentives. Miss Sam here, is that right, Sam?
Yes, hello.
Develops a close connection with natural world while nibbling from her family's garden. I like a family garden too. They rooted her passion for locally grown and produce food. She holds a non-business associate, a non-profit business administration degree from the College of Charleston in South Carolina before moving to Northwest Tennessee. She coordinates food insecurity projects throughout upstate New York through her jobs at United Way, County, Second Harvest Food Bank, and local pantries. She serves as an agriculture extension Peace Corps volunteer in Paraguay, South America. Thank you. Currently, she serves on Tennessee's Environmental Council Board of Directors. She serves her community as the co-manager of Martin Farmers Market through the city of Martin. In her spare time, she manages her urban farm, Barefoot Gardens. She is also a Tennessee master gardener who enjoys teaching children how to cultivate and eat vegetables, cooking and sharing the additional harvest for her family and friends, and improving her community through her passion of locally grown and produce foods. Welcome.
Thank you, Mabel. Thank you. Well, can everyone hear me now? Yeah. I'll say I was sharing with Mabel here that I didn't feed any kind of bio or info into the organizers here. So now I know that what you put out there on social media, on your websites, it matters. So that's good. Thanks for the introduction. And thank you for coming to this session that we call Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food. And local procurement, right? I mean, we're gonna talk about local procurement, I would say, in the context of food systems, because as you've heard from the bio, Samantha and I, who have partnered on a number of projects, believe passionately in the future that involves more relationships. So if there's one thing you leave this session with today, I'd like you to know that there are people out there that are bridges, whether it's a farmer like myself or somebody who's very adeptly building a nonprofit organization. We want to be a bridge to help you build those relationships. And then our presentation is really centered around why knowing your local farmers is important, why we believe that's important for the future. So welcome. We'll do some quick introductions here, but we want to walk you through some perspectives and implications that give you that understanding of why we're so passionate about this area. And then as we move towards experiences and challenges, we want to get a little bit more interactive, because we know in terms of local food systems, there's a lot of challenges, right? And so I'm as interested, Sam is interested in hearing about what relationships you've had and how that's worked out. And so we'll get a little bit more interactive. If we have time at the end, we actually have an exercise where we want to put you in the role of a farmer. Okay, so we'll see what that's like. So introductions. Let me just, there's, I don't know, 25, 30 people here. How many West Tennessee people do we have? Yeah, so we probably have three people. How about Middle Tennessee? Yep, good. East Tennessee. All right. Okay, we got a good mix, a little bit of a bend towards East Tennessee. That's great. How many child nutrition directors do we have? Okay, how many school cafeteria managers? Excellent, okay, fair showing of hands. Maybe some people involved in procurement? Okay, very good. And what about menu planners? Okay.
Not dietitian, just a caterer.
Caterer, okay, dietitian, caterer, very good. And other agencies, organizations, I know we've got, yeah, the state of Tennessee here. Thank you all for coming. What roles do we have that you've not been called on? Just curious. Regular lunch lady. Thank you so much. Yeah, because that relationship and those bonds you form with the kids every day, it's really really critical. So, Sam, you want to cover off on our glossary?
Sure. So we have, we'll be going over a variety of concepts during this talk, and we just wanted to share with you our glossary of terminology. That way we're all in the know. And of course, you know, if you have any questions during the presentation, please let us know. We will have a questions closer towards the end, but even throughout the talk, please let us know if you do have questions. So we will be talking about local and regional products and how it is that local is defined, because there are a lot of definitions when it comes to defining local. Sustainable is really any kind of item that is harvested or sourced sustainably and also grown. Value added products are products that are processed and created into a new product. So you could say like diced or sliced tomatoes would be a value added product by having those tomatoes already sliced. Value chain coordination really talks about how you get the product from farm to fork and all of the steps that happens in between the value chain. There's a lot of things going on in those steps, and we're going to go over those with you. You all might know what RFP stands for, request for proposals, but usually when you have a bid, you send out an RFP, which means that producers or those who are selling food can accept that request for proposal, fill it out, and then send it back to you. Geographic preference really ties in with local food, and that's been kind of a key word that's been happening in the procurement world about where and what part of the geography is this food coming from? Is it from California? Is it from the farm next, you know, down the road from your school? So the preference is really your choice and the geography where you want to get that food. And then we also have farm to school elements, which we will be going over with. Very passionate about farm to school, and we are very excited to get this presentation started. So next we'll go to this defining local. So part of the Northwest Tennessee Local Food Network, we are a nonprofit, and our mission is to serve as a catalyst for a thriving and equitable local food system that's accessible to all in our region. Our region encompasses Northwest Tennessee, so there's 9 counties within there. So within those 9 counties, we've worked with 8 school districts so far on farm to school planning. And a lot of the planning always starts off with this question: what is local? What does local mean to you? And because we've been doing this with several school districts, we kind of started using this tier system. So as you can see, we have a map here, and the pinpoint is right in Chattanooga, where y'all are right now. So within Chattanooga, in tier 1, 50 miles around tier 1 would be local or hyper local. So it's super duper local. There's a lot of farms within that 50-mile radius. The farther you get out, you go into tier 2. That's more of like a regional local, but it also is very large. 100 miles encompasses several states. As you can see, it touches Georgia, South Carolina. Well, no, not South Carolina, but North Carolina. Almost Kentucky, we're almost there, but Alabama. So you're getting multi-states right there. But as the USDA defines local, which is 400 miles, now you're catching fish in the Atlantic Ocean and getting some oranges from Florida. And that's still local from what the USDA defines. So really, when it comes to local, it's up to you to define. Some of our school district partners have defined regional 150 miles. We've always kept the 400-mile mark because that's kind of what the USDA coincides. But like, for example, the DoD produce program, which is the Department of Defense produce program, they source from a farm that's in Arkansas. So technically that produce is local, defined by the terms of USDA. So local is very important to know how to define it.
Ready?
Ready.
And I will pick this one up. I realize I've got a hypersensitive toggle switch here. So what are the benefits of knowing your farmer and procuring the food you're serving to your students locally? Let me start this by saying, you know, I had a career, 35-year career in food. And it started out in corporate food. Well, actually, it started out with USDA food distribution. So we were doing social work, but I wound up spending a lot of time with the Mars Corporation in corporate food. We were making food and we were marketing food, and I did a lot of product design. And the key point of me in that is that I had a little bit of a epiphany, wake-up call along the way, which is around health and nutrition. And that's the reason we called our farms Healthy Flavors. And when my family moved to Franklin, Tennessee in 2011, guess what? The first commercial scale hydroponic operation in Tennessee, it was written up into Tennessee in that way. The previous owners founded it in the mid-80s. It was for sale. And now this is me. I grew up near a farm, but not on a farm. But I said, if there's ever a way to help people transition from salt, fat, and sugar, and remember, I knew what we were doing from this experience designing all kinds of highly processed foods. I knew that was the way, right? It's the nature's way. It's nutritious. It's the nutritious way. Before we had all this technology, that was the way we flavored our foods. And this hydroponic greenhouse was growing culinary herbs. So I couldn't think of any better way to play a role in shaping the food system. Over in Arkansas, this is kind of a personal mission where our family's been blessed with resources, about 400 acres. 400 acres would be a lot of vegetables, so we're taking it step by step by step. But here's a perspective for you. You all, collectively, the National School Lunch Program is the largest restaurant chain in America. Have y'all heard that before? Right? I mean, take a step back and think about that, right? You're the largest restaurant chain in America, and you're the largest woman-run institution in kind of a non-commercial enterprise, right? Which I think is great, right? And it speaks to the power that any farmer that I've met knows. You know, when we think about developing markets and things like that, especially if we're going to be competitive with this food system that has 100 years of development and knowledge and investment, right? If we're going to be competitive with that, we need to be building scale, right? And so scale around health, okay, providing nutritious food options is a huge benefit of knowing your farmer, okay? Let me give you another example. Support the local economy. So when my wife and I purchased this commercial hydroponic operation in Eagleville, that was in 2012. There were 3 full-time people and a part-time bookkeeper and a part-time driver. So today we have a staff of 40 people, including 3 management level people that are, at least by agriculture standards, not earning shabby salaries. So when you get this right, and when you build the scale, and I'll tell you above all else, when you focus on quality, and when you focus on service, and you focus on meeting your customers' needs, then we can support our local economies. And I know there's a lot of political concern right now about kind of what's happening in rural areas. And if you think about it, when you know your farmer, when you're buying that product from them, that money's staying in your community. Okay, it's a closed economy, and the money's staying close to home, which is good. Hands-on nutrition education based on local food systems. I'll tell another story here. what's the first provision for food? Why were we given food in the very beginning? Sorry, nourishment? Nourishment, yeah. The way I think about nourishment is the first provision for food was to heal our bodies. To heal, okay? The second provision for food was to provide energy. You know, that's what we all hear about or think about, carbohydrates, fats, protein. That's the energy we need to get through our lives every day. The third provision for food is for pleasure, right? Food should be pleasurable. It should give us joy. It should provide all those things. But this food system we've got now has flipped that right the way around, and food is fun and frivolous, way too caloric for what our actual energy needs are. And the phytonutrients, the micronutrients, all those little things that are involved in, that are included in the plants we eat, right? That's what's healing our body. And that's what we're missing. And if you want to know more about that, I can give you the scriptural background behind that, or I can give you the scientific background behind it, but there's no conflict. There's no conflict whatsoever, but that's how much of an opportunity we have to get back to fresh, locally grown foods, which is all based on these relationships and these connections that we've got an opportunity to build here. So let's move on to perspectives and implications. Want me to take this one and then I'll pass it off to Samantha. Study by the Food and Land Use Coalition. Okay, I think $12 trillion of societal costs is being wasted today in the current food system, projected to grow to 16 trillion by 2050. Here's a statistic that just blows me away. In the 1960s, in our gross domestic product, in our GDP, healthcare was 5% in the 1960s. Today, it's 18% and the fastest growing part of our economy. And just ask yourself, how sustainable is that, right? How many more hospitals and pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies and all that can we actually afford, right?
What was the percentage? I'm sorry,
Today is 18% of the US GDP. Yeah. And included in those societal costs are things like how land is being used, right? The changes in our climate that are impacting us, right? Food has one of the highest propensities to help us use nature in the way that it was intended naturally in the beginning, right? To help us, right? We're a part of this ecosystem, we're a part of this world, and it's time, in my view, that we start embracing that and really start getting back to the future is another way I like to think about it. So Sam?
All right, so part of these 10 critical transitions that are recommended, it's really for everybody. And, you know, our society has been changing, especially since COVID. It was kind of a wake-up call about how food is so important and accessing food is important and eating healthy is important, nourishing our bodies so it can defend off these crazy viruses that come along our way. So one is promoting healthy diets. And as Dan said, you know, the cafeteria is the largest classroom in the school, and it's the best opportunity because you see all the kids going through, whether they, you know, eat from the cafeteria line or they're bringing their own foods from home. You still have a touch point with those kiddos. So that's a great way to be able to promote healthy diets. Also working with the farmer side, scaling more productive and regenerative agriculture. Regenerative agriculture is using natural systems to help benefit agriculture in general. Most of it is kind of used for the meat industry, whether it's, you know, raising beef cattle or pork products or chicken products, but it also goes to farming as well. So, you know, using practices such as cover cropping and soil regeneration, working with water systems so that our water systems are not promoted or polluted, but, you know, regenerating our earth through the goodness that agriculture can bring. Additionally, restoring and protecting nature kind of goes in along with that. Our waterways are really important. We all need water to drink. So that is one way, something that we could all do, not litter on the highway, for example, because all that trash can end up in a waterway and pollute our water systems. Securing a healthy and productive ocean is very important. Even though, you know, us in Tennessee are a bit landlocked, we do have rivers with lots of fish. So it's not just, you know, protecting the ocean, it's also protecting our rivers, but the ocean is very important. A lot of protein comes and products come from the ocean. Diversifying the protein supply. So most folks, when you think of protein, what do you think of? Like meat, right? I know a lot of people think of meat, but there's actually beans are a great source of protein. Garbanzo beans, purple whole peas. You can ask Dan about purple whole peas. He grows them. But beans are a great source of protein, and they're very cheap. So lots of farmers, I mean, you come here in West Tennessee and you will see soybeans galore, just through fields and fields and fields of soybeans. And that is an excellent supply of protein. More importantly is reducing food loss and food waste. And working in cafeteria, this is also an issue of concern. You don't want the food that you cook to be wasted, but if it does go to waste, what can you do with it? A lot of schools are implementing composting programs, which is using the food scraps, not meat or plastics or anything like that, but using the food scraps and then generating your own soil to then use in the school garden. So it's not only cost effective when it comes to, you don't have to buy as much soil, but it also helps reuse that waste that is generated in the school every day and used for the greater good. Building local loops and linkages is the concept of creating a circular economy. So that means by, say you buy from a farmer, you are closing that loop in the supply chain, because that farmer is getting paid directly to you, the consumer, and it's also benefiting your community. So whatever that money is made from that farmer will then use again in the community by purchasing. So it's closing that loop and finding those linkages. Another is harnessing the digital revolution. So I'm here in Martin, Tennessee. It's a home of the University of Tennessee at Martin. We have an amazing Department of Agriculture, and they are on this digital revolution pathway, not only with farming, but also in the school cafeteria. So when it comes to food waste reduction, there's actually tools that are starting to be developed through AI where you can assess the food waste that's happening in your school cafeteria by just a click of a button. And then it auto calculates the data for you. And then all you have to do is read the report, and voila, that's cool. So there's lots of really cool digital revolutionary items happening, cool apps, different technologies that are being integrated into our food system. Again, delivering stronger rural livelihoods. So Tennessee is an agriculture strong state. We have, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but we have like millions of dollars worth of agricultural products that come out of our state every year. And it's not just farming, it's also agroforestry as well. So the trees are very beneficial to our economy, but we also have to remember to plant lots of trees too. And then also improving gender equality and accelerating the demographic transition. So trying to have equal access for all is very difficult, but it's not impossible. So these are the 10 critical transitions that we could look at when it comes to transforming food systems.
Very good. Just a few more facts. When I first started paying attention to the obesity stats, this is the Robert Wood Johnson the State of Obesity Report. Tennessee was number 4, and Arkansas was number 5. That was 2019. So the good news is we're making progress, right? We're number 7 and number 8. But we have a long way to go, and obesity is one of those things that is kind of a comorbidity, if you will, with rising rates of the heart disease, the cancers, the diabetes, which so many of people in our population, we're up to about 30% of people who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and we know that nutrition won't cure everybody, but it can play a big role in bringing these very chronic conditions under control. The issue is we need to educate, we need to train, we need to give our population those opportunities to restore their natural state of health. And on the agriculture side of things, Samantha actually uncovered a little bit of hope in this data. The classic stat was that for every 4 farmers over the age of 65, we had 1 under 35. And you can see that the population is still continuing to age. You know, the number of people in their mid 40s to mid 50s, mid 50s to mid 60s, but we are seeing a tick up, about 4% of an increase. And I can tell you, I mean, in my networks and relations, there are a few more young people that are getting interested, and I can't help but think that we can double down and we can even accelerate that further through things like farm to school, right? And exposing kids to how their food is grown, where it's grown, and giving them that opportunity in the cafeteria. Sam?
Yeah, so, you know, farm to school is not really a new concept. What farm to school really is creating a shift in school culture. So as Dan said, yes, we do have some more young farmers growing up, but there might be some kids in your school that have never had access to any kind of farming or agriculture or nutrition, anything. They've never even touched the soil. And just by giving them those touch points, that accessibility, you might inspire a child to then cultivate food for you when we're all old and retired, you know. Anyway, there's several different elements when it comes to farm to school, and all of these work together in a nutshell. So you have the 3 C's, and this is from Vermont Feed, which is a great organization that does a lot of farm to school work and has assessment tools. Check them out, Vermont Feed. Anyway, they use this system of the 3 C's. So you have the cafeteria, community, and the classroom. And all of these are integrated into these elements here on the right side of your screen. And these elements, there's 3 of them. So one, when you think of farm to school, a lot of people think, oh, school gardens, and that's it. But actually, no, it's more integrated, because in order to create culture shifts, you really have to integrate all of these concepts into the cafeteria, community, and classroom. So school gardens is one of them, and also school farms. But in the classroom, incorporating those concepts of agriculture and nutrition education into daily activities is very easy to do. And it's often done without it even being considered a farm to school activity. So for example, in the elementary school, kids learn about life cycles at least once a year through their science classes. That's a great way to integrate agriculture into the classroom through the school garden by showing the kids actually like what really does happen to a plant in the life cycle. When it comes to nutrition, there is always more that can be done. But again, the cafeteria is the best classroom. And when you're talking about nutrition, I mean, that's what y'all do. You're school nutrition directors. So that's your gig. But it's a great way to showcase and teach children how to eat well. And they might not even have those foods at home. Often children are, their breakfast and lunch comes from the school, and they often, don't have enough dinner to eat. So they are really relying on school food programs to get their nutrition and their food. But also when it comes to farm to school, and this is what our talk is about, is bringing those local foods into the school cafeteria. So that means either bringing it from a farm into the school, or growing that school food on your school garden, in your school farm, and bringing that into the cafeteria. There's multiple ways to bring local foods into schools.
Whoop.
Whoop.
There we go.
There we go.
Too fast. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to?
So I can take this one.
Okay.
So Samantha talked about the kind of the farm to school ecosystem in the form of culture. being a food person that is experiencing nonprofits and commercial and now kind of homegrown agriculture enterprises, I'm a supply chain guy. A lot of farmers actually kind of get involved and interested in farming because they've got green thumbs, right? They've got green hands. They enjoy that result of seeing things grow and being able to care for things. But it's to make this transition happen, we're going to need a lot more supply chain thinking and supply chain experts, because there's a whole lot of things that go on between when those seeds are planted on any farm and when we get to all the way over to this point of how we consume our food in the various institutions and outlets, all the way into how we deal with food waste. But each of these areas in and of itself, I can just tell you, I've had to learn about irrigation. I didn't go to school for ag, but I had to learn plumbing skills, right? Just to survive, right? I'm still a learner and want to be on farm machinery, and just very blessed to have a team of people now that can complement our operations in this area. But that's even before we get to things like logistics, right? And having the trucks that are needed to get the foods to you and the schools, and a lot of goes into that, right? I mean, I've got some frozen things that we are able to deliver to a central location, but when we're delivering lettuces and things like that, oftentimes it needs to be delivered to each individual school, right? The cost of that, from the perspective of hiring a driver, miles on the delivery van, all of those sorts of things contribute to the complexity. And we're going to get in a few minutes into kind of your perspective on institutional food and what it takes to use more local food in in your school cafeterias. But think about it like this. Again, in the supply chain context. So this is what's taking place between the farmer and the end consumer by and large today. The farmers are selling to agent brokers that are passing it off to a manufacturer that then gets it to a wholesaler of some sort. Finally, it will get to the retailer or the end consumer. Each step of that chain, somebody's making a profit. And I can tell you the food system that, there are, farmers have an interesting reputation. There's a lot of people out there making very good money driving tractors with 60-foot harrows and planters and sitting in their air conditioning cab, and they're making good money, right? But the people who are out there really trying to transform this food system, and especially the small and medium scale farmers that are really at risk. The small and medium scale farmers are at risk these days, but they're the ones with the most potential to provide this local food system, because they can manage the diversity, right? They can manage the hands-on situation. I can tell you on our farm in Arkansas, you go 20 feet over there and we can have some very clay-like soil here and some very sandy-like soil over there. I mean, that river valley that we're farming in has just washed things around. And if you don't know that, and if you're not laying your irrigation lines correctly, now for a genetically modified soybean, it doesn't matter, right? But when you're trying to grow vegetables or other things like that, it really does. So what happens over here, when you know your farmer, when you've got this kind of direct relationship, guess what? You've got the opportunity to send more of that profit margin right back to the source, right back to the place where the food is coming from. And that can be very helpful. I will tell you my dilemma to this day still is, I would love to be competitive with this food system, but it's going to take time. When I'm describing to people what it takes to have a startup farming operation, and we've been through 12 years of this here in Tennessee, the balance of the knowledge of what you're doing with the infrastructure that it takes to farm, because farming is a capital intensive type of operation, with the hands and feet, right? That's a constant balancing act when you're small. And you really can't scale until you get to some level of alignment around those things. But it really does make a difference when you're able to have those relationships. That's just on the profit and economic side of things, not to mention the health benefits. Most of your leafy greens are going to lose 50% of their nutritional value every single day during the supply chain, right? So the closer your relationship is to the farmer, the faster that food is getting to you, the more nutrition you're going to be able to provide to your students.
So both Dan and I have been involved in several different farm to school developing projects. And part of any project is to conduct assessments. So we've conducted assessments with teachers, with parents, with school nutrition staff, with administrators, with farmers, with consumers, everybody. We want to know what you're thinking. And these were kind of overarching issues that we have found across the board that are very common in most school districts. I don't want to say all school districts, but you might relate to some of these. Does anybody, and I can't see a show of hands, but go ahead and raise your hands for Dan.
I'll fill you
Has
in.
anybody had high kitchen staff turnover the past 2 years?
Yes, we have half the room raising their hands. Yep.
Yeah, that's been a big issue. Do you find that in the common day, and these are for school cafeteria managers and directors, that there's limited time to process fresh foods?
Yes, lots
Yes.
of verbals.
Our time is very strict. And can you agree that it can be difficult to coordinate delivery with farmers to schools in the district? Any hands?
Yes.
Okay.
Some examples, maybe. Yeah. We're getting a lot of confirmation here. Yeah. What do you?
We have 72 schools, so nobody can deliver for all of us. And we ended up just like, a little bit here, a little bit there, and I mean, I would like to start the same menu for everybody.
The logistics challenge, right?
It is. Even, I mean, we just tried this year with like a few products directly from the local farmer was strawberries. And we were like, from just storing strawberries for like 3 weeks to be able to cover the whole county. So.
Did you catch most of that? Yeah.
No, it's very hard to hear.
To get to it.
Okay. So some experience and some examples of some of these challenges and barriers. Anything anyone else would like to share? Logistics challenges is the main thing there. Yeah. What about you want to move on? What about successes?
Well, hold on. I just want to get a chime in real quick. So
Sure.
there is a shift to offer more scratch cooked meals. But what we have run into is that a lot of staff don't really know how to, first of all, like prepare, like chop up the food, nonetheless cook it. Have you all found that to be the case in your schools as well?
There's some head nodding. Yes. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, not very good.
Well,
confirmation. Yes.
Talking about barriers is always a bummer. So that's why in the next slide, we have offered some solutions that we have found to help support your school nutrition programs and communities, really, when it comes down to it. I didn't want to read all the slides. I know y'all can read it. And we can also offer this slideshow afterwards to maybe the presenters.
There we go. Yep.
We have solutions. So the cool thing about farm to school in the cafeteria, in the classroom, in the community, is that it creates this amazing sense of pride and value that it's almost even hard to describe. You just feel it. You just feel it. It just feels good. And you know that your work is benefiting anybody who eats your food. because of the way you are creating this culture of food in your school. One workaround we've had when it comes to procuring local foods into schools, especially when it comes to grant funding, is by offering taste tests. Now, if you get grant funds from the USDA, they'll say, no, you cannot buy any local foods. But if you do a taste test, that's the loophole. Then you could buy, you're able to offset your food costs by buying and purchasing local foods. That's how we were able to source a whole entire a head of beef cattle into the Obion County School District. They had so much beef that they ended up doing a culinary cooking contest with their culinary students. And then they still had more beef. So then they did an FFA fundraiser. So anyway, it was the beef that kept on giving. But we've also done this with fresh fruits and vegetables. So we were able to offer a training on scratch cooked meals, but we had to pay for the food. And so we did that through a taste test lunch, and that was great. So taste tests are really great way, not only to help you get funding, but also for the kids to taste new foods. And then, okay, maybe radishes weren't a big hit on the menu, but at least now you know that. And so you won't have a lot of food waste down the chain. But who knows? Eggplant was amazing and kids really liked it, but you don't know until you know. So that's why taste tests are great. It's a great way to introduce local foods, to buy on a small scale, and to test the waters a little bit. There's some districts that are starting to do like one scratch cooked meal a week, and they could have one local ingredient in that meal. So that's another workaround. You don't have to do like a full lunch with all local ingredients. We know that's not a possibility right now until our food system is more sustainable. But we can source ingredients like Dan's herbs and put that and some chicken and chicken Alfredo sauce. Yeah, that'd be great. There are more opportunities to be able to train staff to help with scratch cooking. Our organization does do that. We partner with a chef, and that's a great way to get some culinary expertise into your kitchen and create that sense of value. And also, one of the things that we do is we offer local food procurement meetings in the winter. So we really try to connect those farmers with school cafeteria managers to help plan for the season, because a farmer, the growing season is right now. So you can't call up a farmer and be like, hey, can I get 1,000 tomatoes? And they're like, well, they're still growing in the ground. Call me up in a month. But then you can't do that in December either, because then the tomatoes are past. So you really have to plan ahead when it comes to procuring local food in the school. Can you please have her not call me? Also, one other thing is Taste of Tennessee Harvest of the Month program is a program that we as a local food network have started, and it's offered throughout all of Tennessee. And the concept of the Harvest of the Month program is that you offer one product a month that's featured on your menu. So I don't know if they saw the first slide, but there's a picture of Dan and I with Vicki Dunaway from Milan School District, and my coworker Caroline Ideas, and we are in the Milan School cafeteria. And that day they were featuring sweet potatoes from a local sweet potato farm out of Gleason, and they had it on their menu. And there you can see the sweet potato. It's not your typical sweet potato. We think of sweet potatoes as orange, but we were able to offer a variety of sweet potatoes. As you see, this one has like a purple skin and a white crust there in the little corner, the right corner there. That's a sweet potato. And they had a sign, and you can see behind Dan's head, there's a little poster. That's one of our Harvest of the Month posters. So when it comes to nutrition education, it's not like you don't have to give a class to be able to educate kids. Kids are visual learners. So if you have like integrative posters up in your school cafeteria, that's a great way to offer nutrition education and also tie it in with your menu planning. If you want posters, you can download them for free. They are Tennessee made by Tennessee students. And you can get that on our website, which is NWTNLFN.org. And then check out Taste of Tennessee. It's delicious. I'm in a presentation.
I think it's on it. It'll be on our wrap-up slide here. Yeah, yep. Cover off on procurement?
Good. You want me to? Okay.
So I know this has been covered in other sessions, Sam, that I was in, but you know, for a lot of these farmers, I've not participated in a bid yet. It's just the scale isn't there, but micro purchases up to 10,000. But we were doing some research, and there are ways of self-certifying through your policies and through the documentation that you're maintaining in your districts to have up to $50,000 as non-competitive bids with your local farmers if they're able to meet your specs, right? So that's some of the referenced material here. You want to?
Sure. So the USDA has some great documents that you can download, these PDFs, and one of them is in this corner, this decision tree. And it's a fabulous document. It's a little old, but it's still very applicable to the times that we're living in. So, you know, when it comes to any kind of procurement, there are always technical requirements in order for you to be able to meet the needs of your school nutrition programs. And also, you know, you want to kind of vet these vendors or the farmers to make sure that they're responsive and they're responsible and they're going to meet the needs that you're requesting. So some things that you can consider, or some, you know, some ideas that you can ask about or specifications of their product are, you know, what are their production practices? So like, how do they grow their tomatoes? Are those tomatoes grown in the field? Are they grown in the ground in a greenhouse? Are they grown in pots? Are they grown hydroponically? How are those tomatoes grown? State of origin labeling, it's kind of as what it states, like, where was this grown? Was this grown in my town? Or was this actually wholesaled from California? Like, it's good to know where that comes from. Harvest techniques, how was it harvested? Was it handpicked? Did they use a machine? Was it washed on site? How was it packaged? When was it packaged? When was it harvested? All of this can be located on your bid sheet when a farmer comes to you, be like, hey, farmer, fill this out. And then we could talk about how to get your product into our schools. But also freshness is also very important. So being able to trace the product back to the farm, having the dates on the food is very important, but also getting that personal connection with your farmer. A lot of farmers during the winter months have a little bit of downtime, and that would be a great time for a farmer to come into your school or into a classroom and talk about their farm. And it creates that cohesiveness, again, that culture shift, that change, that buy-in, that sense of pride that happens when you have engaged community members who are proactively supplying to your schools, but also engaging with your classrooms.
So this is going to be pretty fast paced, but I think we might be able to pull it off. What I want you to do is these three tables right here at the front of the room. You 4 tables here, and then the last 3 tables at the back. If you don't mind, just kind of have a huddle on the side. And we want you to put yourself in the role of a farmer. And so group 1 here at the front, you're going to think through what would you need to describe to the local procurement person in your district about the Roma tomatoes that your farm is growing. The middle group, you're going to do slicing tomatoes, and the back group, you're going to do grapefruit cherry tomatoes. Now there's some clues here, and you got the advantage of being on both sides, right? Well, we want you to put yourself in the role of a farmer, but how are you going to describe what you grow, and how are you going to make that appealing and attractive to child nutrition directors? So just take 5 minutes, and then we'll hear some quick ideas on the backside. So On your feet, kind of group together, kind of question. Or hold. That's what you need to start. You need to stride. That's how you're gonna do it. They're very engaged. Just a minute or two. Another minute or two. Oh. Take about one more minute.
Yeah, that's good. That'll give them 5 minutes to share. And yeah, I don't know if they could, if the speaker could come up so I can hear what they're saying, because I can't hear them. Just one speaker from each group.
Okay, we want you to start wrapping up. Couple of people can come up with us out here, dicing, slicing tomatoes. Could one or a couple of you come up and help us ladies in a conversation? Come on. Well, Samantha won't be able to hear you. Yeah. Oh.
We don't know if we understood the assignment. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, just, you know.
very good. Well, just tell us about your discussion, right? What were the things you were discussing or deliberating or? Okay, all right, let's get everyone's attention here. We just want you to tell us the highlights of your discussion. You know, what you think would have, what were the easy things for you to kind of describe? What were the challenges? What do you think was going to be, you know, between the farmer and the schools using these tomatoes? What?
Well, we found a few challenges. That's the fact that being on the farmer side, you know your product, you know the certification, whatever that is.
Right.
And we might, on the other side, we will ask you, we want tomatoes, we want Roma tomatoes, have this many cases a week or so, and the delivery, how much is the delivery, what is the size of the cases and all of that. But so what side of, where we know what side of the tomatoes is. So if, I feel like that's what I'm saying, that maybe we didn't understand that correctly, but
It's okay.
we need, I mean, we're not in your world.
Here's what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
some challenges around kind of the sizing of the tomatoes, the
Sizing.
quantities of the tomatoes,
Yeah,
right?
quality, because like I
Quality.
only have like the baby, whatever, for different sizes. And
Right,
so.
right. And how are you going to know exactly, right? Whether some blight comes along and affects your tomato plants, right? And yeah,
So we, of course, we need to know what we went all over like bid period and, you know, like we need to know what season you're gonna have that for us.
absolutely. Yeah,
How many you can produce a week or you can offer for a certain amount of time so we can.
Yeah. very good.
And on
Yeah,
the selling side of it, what is gonna be the best use of the Roma tomato?
Absolutely. Yeah. How are you going to use them in the cafeteria?
What they can do with it.
Right, right,
Because in
right.
my mind, the Roma is more of a sauce tomato.
Okay.
As a country girl, that's what I would, you know, then.
So there's going to be some discussion around the types of varieties that are grown and how they're going to be used, right?
Salad for your sandwiches and stuff, and then the cherries, you're gonna use those for your salads and for the like finger, you know.
That's right.
But the Ramos has got a little more challenge to it because to me, it's more of a sauce or a salsa, you know, but it's a process.
That's
It's not just, you know, like chop it up today and like salsa, and sometimes it needs to be cooked, depends on what kind of salsa.
So is the farmer going to provide that process? Can it be done in the cafeteria? Right? Absolutely. Yeah.
Big process for the Romans, but
Yeah.
they
Did you
they
want to share?
have their own. system.
Yeah, I did Roma, so I mean, I can just tell you what we came up with, but we weren't thinking about those kind of things.
Okay.
Totally different, just like going through and answering the questions and just, I mean, because basically we just, said that we were gonna have organic certification, we were gonna have heirloom tomatoes.
Organic certification, heirlooms, right?
We're gonna go for 3 months for a bid period, we average.
3 month
we had
bid period.
We were doing about
Okay.
5 pounds average. We did 250 a week, 250 pounds a week. is
So
what
getting
we-
specific about quantities, that's
Yes,
right. Yep.
and then that was 3,000 pounds for bid period.
Good.
So,
Doing some math.
you know.
Excellent. Thank you.
packaging, we do have-
Yeah, packaging, very big question, right? What about the slicing tomatoes? Can someone come up from your group and just tell us a few highlights of your conversation group? Our group, oh, come on up. Yeah, you're from the cherry tomato group, right? Yeah,
And we talked about pretty much, first of all, we go off the name of our farm.
awesome.
Happy Farms in Chattanooga.
Nice.
We're practicing our product of cherry tomatoes. Our main thing is talking how we're shipping it to you. Are we shipping it to you
How to ship.
individual packs? Are you gonna be getting flat tomatoes? Are they gonna be loose cherry tomatoes and stuff like that?
Right.
And if they're loose like that, you're gonna lose some here and there if they're not in a clamshell and stuff like that. So we we're discussing our.
It's a big question, not just in terms of, how they're packed out on the farm, how they get used in the cafeteria, but how they transport in between, right? Yep, absolutely, yeah.
So we are discussing.
How much damage comes into fresh things, all those kinds of things.
Pricing too.
What special considerations for the slicing tomatoes? What y'all? Right. Yeah, freshness, shelf life, how long they're gonna last, all those sorts of things. Right, right, yep. Right, who's gonna do the processing? Yeah, how long it would last after, yeah, absolutely.
And the packaging especially is important, because you can't have them moving around water.
Right. Yeah, how they get packaged, absolutely, yeah. So what you really see is, I mean, whether it's something very sensitive, like, involves a lot of processing, or even if it's a whole cherry tomato, right? I mean, there's a lot of considerations involved in something as simple as tomatoes, right? Just tomatoes. So back to Sam's point, right? How much of a robust conversation can you have with your farmer? And I can just tell you, the winter months, which I know the busy times for you are when you get, school started, when you're planning your menus, but those winter months, at least from the farmer perspective, they're great times because right now I really should be out of the field, but any questions or comments, observations that you want to share? No. I have a sign up sheet up here. If y'all want to get in touch, if you want to leave me your email information, something that Sam and I, as she mentioned, we're actively working on grant opportunities and things like that to make these connections happen. So we really appreciate the job y'all are doing. Keep it up. Let us know how we can help.
Dan, can you show the last slide?
There you go. And here's our contact information.
Yes,
Yeah.
please contact us. We are happy to help. That's what we do.
We have one comment.
I just wanted to say that, my husband is a hilarious with the school. And what we find a lot of times is, by the time they're right, their taste buds are trapped, a lot of them, because they eat all this hot, plain Cheetos, and they eat all this junk and processed foods, this and that. So I would say that one key factor in this whole discussion is that this has to start elementary, and just be educated throughout the process where they can develop these skills. And also watching getting complicated in the chef, whatever. Our daughter, we look first, and it in her life, I mean, now it's like, oh, she could be in color grade, she was young. So I mean, like, it's very key that nutrition, working together, and educating and starting that, affinities are gonna start early.
Thank you for joining us today at the Tennessee School Nutrition Conference.